Welcome back to our channel where we share updates and untold stories about Catherine, Princess of Wales and her royal family. Today we bring you some news. Prince William furious after Diana's jewels found in Camilla's possession. Recent reports from royal circles detail a notable and delicate find at Clarence House, the official London home of King Charles III and Queen Camilla. These stories claim that a standard inventory assessment of artifacts associated with the royal collection triggered a series of events that, according to insiders, has imposed significant pressure on the royal family. The core of these claims is that many pieces of jewelry once owned by Diana, Princess of Wales, items historically considered safe and accounted for, were discovered in a secret vault associated with Queen Camilla. The ramifications of that discovery, if valid, are significant. They rekindle historical conflicts within the monarchy and raise critical inquiries about the cataloging, transfer, and preservation of invaluable historical artifacts. The incident started on March 12, 2024, during a purportedly discreet internal examination of royal holdings. Such audits often include the methodical cataloging and validation of items related to the royal collection, which comprises furniture furnishings, artworks, and ceremonial artifacts linked to the monarchy. In practice, these audits are comprehensive, systematic processes designed to align physical assets with institutional documentation. The process often involves cross-referencing accession numbers, photographic documentation, conservation reports, loan agreements, and transit manifests, interviewing custodial and curatorial staff, and where required, examining storage facilities, climate-controlled cabinets, and secure vaults. The royal collection necessitates a stringent documentation system and regular reconciliation due to its extensive size diversity and the several locations where objects are used officially in order to avert loss, misattribution, or harm. The intricacies of this procedure need delineation. Accessioning at prominent historical institutions entails the allocation of a unique identifier to each object, capturing its image from various perspectives, documenting its condition and provenance, and registering its legal status, whether it is owned by the sovereign in right of the crown, kept on loan, or classified as personal property. Item transfers between locations are typically sanctioned by signed movement forms and recorded in the ledgers of both the lending and receiving sites. When loans are externally issued, insurance policies, packing lists, courier manifests, and condition reports accompany the transaction. In a family where ceremonial usage, personal ownership, and institutional custody converge, the same rules theoretically apply. Nonetheless, entrenched informal arrangements may hinder the straightforward implementation of museum regulations in reality. The Clarence House audit occurred within this operating context. Personnel assigned to this responsibility allegedly observed inconsistencies regarding Princess Diana's personal belongings. Several precious items that were safeguarded upon her death in 1997 were missing from the records and inventory. The subsequent internal report purportedly enumerated the missing items with meticulous detail. Included in the collection were a distinctive emerald and diamond bangle frequently captured in photographs of Diana at prominent charitable events, along with its corresponding gold earrings, a remarkable sapphire brooch, initially a wedding gift from the Queen Mother, which Diana famously utilized as a clasp for a 7-strand pearl choker, and most notably a solitary diamond earring, the counterpart to one retrieved from the debris of the tragic car accident in Paris. Each of these goods has significance that transcends their financial worth. In royal situations, jewelry serves not just as ornamentation, but as a vessel of memory, presents passed among family members, mementos of state events, and public accessories linked to prominent imagery. The emerald and diamond bangle and its accompanying earrings were often captured in photographs of Diana throughout the 1990s. The sapphire brooch has a lineage of historical significance, and the missing diamond earring was ominously linked to that tragic night in Paris. For custodians and family members, such objects serve as both historical documentation and personal possessions, with their provenance and custody being issues of record and, when disputed, of profound sentiment. Initially, the individuals who identified the omissions allegedly sought to address the issue privately. Staff at Clarence House reportedly attempted to address the inconsistency via established administrative avenues, cognizant of the delicacy associated with Diana's legacy and the potential reputational ramifications of any public revelation. Standard procedures in these situations include a meticulous re-examination of accession registers, verification of photographic inventories, interviewing the last individual to access logged entries, and searching locations where loans, conservation treatments, or temporary reassignments may have been documented. Staff often coordinated with conservators and curators who sought things for study or exhibition, as well as with external institutions that sometimes borrow pieces for displays. Notwithstanding these attempts at discretion, the matter escalated swiftly with the presentation of a formal report to top family members. Eyewitness accounts of the subsequent briefings depict a strained ambiance inside the palace. King Charles, now receiving cancer treatment and thus adhering to a reduced public engagement schedule, was personally informed. Reports indicate he responded with significant wrath and anguish upon discovering that objects intimately linked to his late wife were absent. The king has reportedly sought rapid clarifications, urging personnel to elucidate how a security breach transpired inside a royal house. The emotional impact of this moment is clear for those familiar with Diana, and the details of her death. The notion that items associated with her memory may be misappropriated or mismanaged directly confronts personal sorrow and the symbolic integrity of the family's legacy. The officer presenting the results was named as Mr. Emerald, the head of the section inside the royal treasury, tasked with overseeing the collection and its records. Attendees said that he underwent rigorous examination by the monarch, who inquired about the accountability for the inconsistency, the last known sighting of the things, and the investigation measures already initiated. Mr. Emerald apparently lacked rapid responses, and his failure to provide prompt clarity exacerbated the evident stress. In companies where long-standing practices intersect with contemporary governance, the records manager and custodial chain must swiftly reconcile facts. Failure to do this exacerbates concerns about procedural failures. Prince William, the Prince of Wales, who was also informed, was said to be noticeably impacted. For both him and his brother Prince Harry, their mother's belongings represent not just priceless items, but also concrete connections to her life and legacy. Reports indicate that Prince William conveyed deep distress, highlighting that some things were among the last personal belongings entrusted to him and his brother. Observers noted that his response amalgamated sorrow and fury, casting a profound dark shadow over the conference. Even the king, despite prior briefings, was believed to be affected by his son's palpable anguish. In a family whose private history has faced rigorous public examination, the recovery and preservation of memories have an emotional significance that sometimes supersedes bureaucratic formalities. Princess Anne, the Princess Royal, was in attendance as well. Known for her candor and realistic attitude to duty and administration, she allegedly rejected comforting cliches and insisted on substantial answers. Her participation highlighted the seriousness of the situation. She demanded specific evidence instead of hypothetical answers, emphasizing the inconsistency of such a breach happening inside one of the nation's most protected residences. Witnesses said that her line of questioning intensified pressure on Treasury personnel and indicated that the family anticipated a swift, definitive investigation. Anne, frequently recognized for her rigorous compliance with protocol and institutional standards, framed the matter as constitutional rather than merely personal by advocating for a forensic approach. Any deficiencies in record-keeping and access controls necessitated a comprehensive review of the custodial stewardship framework. Confronted with escalating uneasiness, King Charles reportedly ordered an end to speculation and insisted on decisive measures. He directed Mr. Emerald to emphasize revealing the facts rather than providing quick, perhaps hollow reassurances. The instruction he provided was clear: identify the individual responsible for relocating the valuables, establish the means of their movement, and most importantly, retrieve the lost gems. Mr. Emerald committed that his team will provide all available resources to the inquiry. The family and their advisors departed the conference under a pall of distress. The missing diamonds had escalated beyond a mere inventory issue. For many attendees, the matter represented a breach of memory and confidence at the core of the monarchy. Subsequent days saw a surge in investigation activities. Standard investigation protocols were allegedly adhered to security personnel, and domestic workers were interrogated. Archive documents and admittance logs were scrutinized, and storage areas across royal homes were thoroughly checked. The royal household employs a multi-tiered security framework, including personnel screening, access restrictions, monitored movement records, CCTV surveillance in hallways and entrances, and regulated transfer documentation for movement between properties or external institutions. Upon the emergence of an abnormality within any of these levels, concurrent investigative avenues are initiated: internal audit, security assessment, legal counsel, and, where warranted, engagement with external law enforcement authorities. Scotland Yard consistently serves as an intermediary in issues related to probable crime associated with the royal family or their assets. Even in cases that may eventually be administrative, police intervention may both comfort the public and provide forensic evidence. The investigative approach in these circumstances integrates administrative reconstruction with physical forensic methods. An examination of CCTV footage, door and safe access logs, keycard data, and custody signatures yields a chronological account. Forensic analysis of storage areas may uncover fingerprints, fibers, or DNA remnants. Condition assessments might indicate whether things were recently manipulated. Conservators can ascertain if items were packed or transported in accordance with official protocols. Interviews with long-tenured domestic personnel might reveal informal behaviors, such as convenience-based transfers, unannounced conversations, or ad hoc loans for private occasions. Each avenue of inquiry requires time and increases the level of intrusiveness that the family must consider against the need of obtaining precise answers. However, for a while, the investigation produced no credible leads. The gems seemed to have disappeared without a trace, exasperating detectives and intensifying the family's distress. Custody routers that were supposed to document movement generated either blank lines or records without sufficient data to identify an authorizer. Such gaps often arise in several historical organizations due to informal arrangements formed for convenience or when custodians change without comprehensive handovers. However, inside a modern royal household, the significant public scrutiny and legal obligations make even the prospect of an informal mistake perilous. Insider accounts indicate that a significant development occurred when Mr. Emerald, during a nocturnal examination of transfer logs and audit records, identified an entry that had previously gone unnoticed. Upon reviewing records that his team had analyzed repeatedly, he discovered a transfer notice dated many months before. Initially, the entry seemed to be a standard administrative record detailing the transfer of assets, exactly the kind of documentation anticipated in a substantial collection, where artifacts are often moved for exhibits, loans, conservation, or safekeeping. Nevertheless, a vital aspect of the line indicating the destination of the transferred objects was markedly deficient. Rather than a designated depository, the field had 3 words inscribed in tidy black ink: undisclosed vault. R.H. The enigmatic notation immediately elicited concern. The inference was that the objects had not been stolen in the traditional sense, but had been officially transferred to a safe place that had not been publicly documented, an off-the-books relocation, according to the terminology of the entry. Mr. Emerald reportedly convened an emergency meeting with his senior aides, his deputy, a records specialist, the head of security, a legal advisor, an archivist, and a liaison from Scotland Yard, illustrating the multidisciplinary strategy required to tackle issues pertaining to both historical artifacts and potential criminality or internal misconduct. During the assembly, Mr. Emerald introduced the transfer letter and articulated his analysis. The document indicated that the gems had been deliberately relocated to a secret concealed vault identified by the initials RH. The team's primary objective then became to elucidate the significance of that abbreviation. The initials they posited could signify several plausible interpretations: an abbreviation for Royal House, a broad term that may refer to various secure royal repositories or potentially residence of Her Majesty, a reading that would associate the location with Queen Camilla's assets. The team deemed further unilateral research unsustainable without informing the king, since the latter interpretation had especially delicate implications, potentially linking the transfer to the queen consort. The revelation recontextualized the inquiry. The investigation has evolved from a simple hunt for a thief to a focused examination of an authorized but clandestine transfer of assets. This nuance elevated the stakes it implied that the individual who authorized or documented the transfer acted within official channels, either formally or informally, and ensured that the ensuing discourse would transition from administrative matters to family dynamics and political sensitivity. An internally sanctioned transfer without enough documentation presents a distinct institutional issue compared to open theft. It suggests either a breakdown in procedural adherence or a willful evasion of monitoring, both of which have governance ramifications. The next morning, a meeting was held in the king's study at Clarence House. Attendance was rigorously restricted. In attendance were King Charles, Prince William, Princess Anne, Queen Camilla, Mr. Emerald, and his principal investigation team. King Charles allegedly mandated strict secrecy, instructing that the particulars remain undisclosed until the probe had a more definitive resolution. Within that confined environment, Mr. Emerald submitted the transfer letter and elucidated its practical significance. The items in issue had, as per the documentation, been relocated to a secret clandestine vault designated as RH. Faced with such proof, the king reportedly issued a definitive demand that all private vaults belonging to the senior royals in attendance be opened for examination. This severe approach was deemed required by all present to address the issue completely. The decision lacked unanimous agreement. Queen Camilla reportedly expressed her objections, first questioning the need for an intrusive search that may be demeaning, and contended that the ownership and status of artifacts inside the royal collection were often recognized and regulated by tradition. Her opposition characterized the examination as perhaps undignified and disturbing. The desire to access private vaults presents a multitude of procedural and emotional issues. Vaults linked to senior royal family members often house a combination of estate paperwork, personal memorabilia, and artifacts held in trust. Privacy standards are often upheld as a matter of routine and legal obligation. Forcing entry into such areas without established legal authority or a defined chain of custodial duty jeopardizes adherence to customs and erodes mutual confidence. The conflict between the need for openness to address a significant abnormality and the want to maintain human dignity highlighted the intensity of the subsequent conversation. Prince William promptly refuted her argument, asserting that the matter was not about abstract ownership, but about the preservation and respect of his mother's legacy. Observers noted that he contended that if Queen Camilla had no secrets, a search would provide no reason for apprehension. A heated argument occurred until King Charles reiterated his authority. The vaults would be unlocked. The atmosphere in the room, as described by insiders, merged aspects of family closeness, institutional imperative, and public significance. For Charles, the need to address the issue and safeguard his family's integrity seemed to surpass apprehensions over immediate suffering. Residents indicate that the operation occurred that evening under the king's direct supervision. Inspections were conducted systematically. The vault belonging to Prince Charles was unlocked first. The contents, as recounted by witnesses, were systematic and unremarkable official documents, personal letters, family antiques, and medals commemorating his extensive military service. No evidence of Diana's jewelry was discovered there. The vault of Princess Anne was subsequently inspected. Her possessions mirrored her identity and obligations: equestrian trophies, souvenirs from public engagements, presents, acquired on official trips, and family photographs, yet again revealing no indication of the missing items. The investigation then shifted to Prince William's vault. William's possessions, described by observers as modest and very personal, included childhood mementos, meticulously maintained letters from his mother, and photos that spoke to his lasting bond with her memory. Notwithstanding the emotional significance of the contents, the lost diamonds were excluded from them. The lack of objects in other vaults heightened the intrigue and reinforced the transfer note's suggestion that the pieces had been intentionally moved to a designated, unrecorded location. The inspectors ultimately arrived at the vault linked to Queen Camilla. Observers remarked that the lock on this vault seemed more contemporary and sturdier than the others, a seemingly trivial characteristic that would subsequently be examined in the stories of the search. In accordance with the king's decree, the massive steel door was forcibly opened, allowing investigators to enter, their lights piercing the chilly, stagnant air. Illuminated shelves displayed velvet jewelry cases and storage boxes. Prominently positioned on a display shelf, attracting attention, were the objects whose absence had incited the inquiry: the emerald and diamond bangle, the coordinating gold earrings, the sapphire brooch, and the solitary diamond earring. The revelation halted the room. Prince William was noticeably distressed, with clenched fists and a countenance reflecting a mix of astonishment and anguish. Princess Anne's expression allegedly became stern as she directed her attention first to the diamonds, then to Queen Camilla. The ailing king reportedly exhibited profound sorrow and disillusionment, directing a solitary, tormented inquiry at his wife. "How could you?" Queen Camilla's response, as recounted by witnesses, was one of incredulity and emphatic repudiation. She reportedly claimed that she had never accessed the vault and had no knowledge of how the gems arrived there. She characterized the finding as a setup, implying in her narrative that some individual may have strategically positioned the things in her vault to tarnish her reputation. The unequivocal denial did not dispel the prevailing suspicion in the room. Prince William allegedly dismissed the idea that the arrangement was artificial, emphasizing that the gems were meant for him and his brother and ought not to have been concealed. Princess Anne interrogated the feasibility of executing such a scheme, who would possess both the daring and the means to do it, and why would anybody conceal such a secret for an extended period? The inquiry into motivation is crucial in any investigation of this kind. Should the objects have been intentionally positioned in a vault to incriminate a senior royal, the culprit would have required both intimate knowledge and access to a confidential repository. On the other hand, if an administrative mistake or a benign, informal transfer took place, it would suggest deficiencies in process and oversight rather than ill intent. In organizations where employee turnover, delegation, and informal practices coexist with formal regulations, misunderstandings may arise. Nevertheless, the emotional significance associated with specific issues complicates attempts to address the situation purely as a procedural failure. The evidence was equivocal. The transfer paper had the enigmatic notation, "Undisclosed Vault," RH, with the tangible existence of the jewels in a vault under Queen Camilla's management. Observers emphasized that a straight documented connection linking any family members to the act of transferring the objects was absent. The transfer letter lacked a signature that definitively assigned authority to any person. The chain of custody, as shown in the available logs, had an unaccounted gap. The circumstances were incriminating but not conclusive. Subsequent to the finding, the diamonds were discreetly extracted and restored to the royal treasury. Their reception was formally recorded, and they were subjected to increased security protocols. Standard procedure in heritage recovery necessitates prompt documentation condition assessments by conservators and safe storage, while ownership and provenance issues are addressed procedures that were allegedly adhered to. However, in addition to the actual recovery of the items, the event incurred an intangible cost. Palace sources indicate that the trust King Charles had established for his wife over decades was undermined. The ambiguous nature of the issue, its blend of physical facts and interpretative uncertainty, created a cloud of suspicion that threatened to obscure Queen Camilla's position as queen consort. To understand the significant implications of the purported finding, one must examine Queen Camilla's protracted and contentious journey into the royal establishment. Camilla Rosemary Shand, born on July 17, 1947, hailed from an affluent family characterized by aristocratic affiliations and a familiarity with royal closeness. She had her schooling in England, Switzerland, and France, and made her societal debut as a debutante in 1965. She traversed the social spheres of high society, attending events including balls, polo matches, and country house gatherings, where she encountered individuals who would significantly influence her life, particularly Andrew Parker Bowles, and in 1970, Prince Charles during a polo match. Her marriage to Andrew in 1973 did not dissolve her tie with Charles, with whom she maintained a substantial and ultimately revived connection. The intricate interaction between personal ties and civic obligation manifested in ways that were difficult to harmonize. In the late 1970s and into the 1980s, as Charles encountered mounting pressure to establish a suitable marriage that would ensure succession and garner public support, his friendship with Camilla emerged as a source of personal solace and public contention. Diana Spencer, youthful, attractive, and seen as an appropriate partner, wed Charles in a highly publicized event in 1981. The marriage was fraught with difficulties from the beginning. Diana's public acclaim often overshadowed Charles, and the ensuing pressures and jealousies led to the dissolution of their union. The enduring relationship between Charles and Camilla ultimately became widely known, resulting in profound anguish for Diana and perpetuating public intrigue and animosity. The early 1990s saw private challenges manifesting in the public sphere, resulting in significant detriment. Andrew Morton's 1992 book Diana, Her True Story, along with the later disclosure of a private telephone conversation between Charles and Camilla termed Camillagate by the media, intensified tabloid coverage and public condemnation. The media characterized Camilla with pejorative terms and portrayed her as a disruptive intruder in a sad story that had garnered worldwide interest. After her divorce from Andrew Parker Bowles in 1996 and the death of Diana in 1997, Camilla retreated from public life, seen by many as persona non grata in the public consciousness. However, the trajectory of their love did not conclude at that point. Over time, Charles undertook a deliberate campaign to restore Camilla's public image, a meticulously orchestrated process that involved joint appearances and a civil marriage in 2005, which granted her the title Duchess of Cornwall instead of Princess of Wales, an adjustment made in consideration of enduring sensitivities. In the following years, Camilla served as a senior royal advocating for reading animal welfare and osteoporosis awareness, steadily building a reputation for stability, tenacity, and discreet service. Her ascension as queen consort in 2022, upon the death of Queen Elizabeth II, marked the completion of an extended process of public reconciliation requiring much patience and intentional effort from the royal household. The rehabilitative trajectory makes the purported existence of Diana's jewels in Camilla's vault more incendiary. The diamonds serve not just as ornamental items, they possess significant symbolism. Specific items, such as the sapphire brooch belonging to the Queen Mother and the emerald bangle, are linked to public representations of Diana, serving as concrete linkages to her legacy. The presence of these items in Queen Camilla's protection within an environment of concealment risks reviving the long-standing narrative of competition and appropriation that has shaped public and private impressions of the women associated with Charles for decades. The repercussions of such a revelation would extend beyond public sentiment. It risks creating divisions within the family unit. King Charles has centered much of his personal life on his allegiance to Camilla. He endured significant public and family condemnation in the past to preserve that connection, prioritizing his private relationship above conventional opinion for many years. His choices, his union with Camilla, and his will to solidify her status have shaped his personal life and proved important to the trajectory of his reign. He is often seen as an individual who prioritizes personal loyalty. When he perceives a breach of allegiance, he has shown a readiness to respond resolutely. In this context, an accusation suggesting that his wife concealed his previous wife's cherished possessions may be seen by him as a profound betrayal, both personally and publicly. Prince William has a very delicate position in this context. Observers have traditionally regarded his relationship with his stepmother as officially respectable, but emotionally distant. As a youngster, he endured the public dissolution of his parents' marriage and subsequently the death of his mother. These events have significantly influenced his public persona and personal objectives. William's primary focus in several cases has been the preservation of his mother's legacy. Reports indicating that his children were directed not to address Camilla as Grandma have emerged before as illustrations of the meticulous limits he likes to maintain. For William, the discovery of Diana's personal jewels in Camilla's vault would undoubtedly be seen as an egregious violation, an affirmation of his long-standing doubts, perhaps leading to a permanent schism between him and his father and stepmother. Princess Anne's position further complicates the family dynamics. As a steadfast figure of royal duty and service, she has significant institutional power and is often seen as a custodian of propriety and continuity. Observers have observed her maintaining distance from Camilla in social settings. She is seen to put the ideals and unity of the monarchy before personal reconciliation. The apparent concealing of royal assets, particularly those associated with a woman as prominent as Diana, would constitute a violation that would disturb an individual whose principles are rooted in duty and order. Collectively, these factors render Queen Camilla's position more fragile than at any time since her marriage was officially acknowledged and approved. For years, she endured hostility and progressively built a career in philanthropic patronage and public service that alleviated prior skepticism. The purported finding of Diana's jewels in a vault associated with her jeopardizes significant advancements. In a monarchy whose legitimacy is derived from both perceived character and honor as well as formal titles, the deterioration of trust may be more detrimental than the loss of symbolic status. Titles may be bestowed and crowns affixed. Credibility and family trust must be acquired and maintained. The claims from Clarence House therefore raise concerns that extend beyond the immediate issue of missing or relocated jewelry. They elicit investigations into institutional practices, specifically the maintenance of records, the documentation of transfer authorizations, and the differentiation between private and public holdings, while also addressing overarching issues of transparency and the stewardship of goods with both monetary and symbolic significance. Royal collections and heritage institutions generally adhere to codes of practice that establish fundamental standards, explicit accession records, photographic documentation, signed movement forms for transfers both within and outside the institution, periodic audits, and a loan policy encompassing insurance and secure transportation. When these standards are implemented in a home that also functions as a family, informal habits developed over years of reliable service may sometimes fail to meet formal expectations. Institutional remedies for such a breach would encompass immediate administrative modifications, clarifying the differentiation between crown property and personal belongings, requiring dual authorization for the transfer of items of significant symbolic value, and enhancing digital record-keeping, as well as longer-term cultural transformations in the equilibrium between trust and informality with accountability. Independent audits, the implementation of forensic chain-of-custody methods, enhanced staff training and retention rules, and the formalization of roles and duties for things held in trust might constitute a comprehensive corrective package. The Crown Estate and other entities have progressively updated their record systems. The extension of comparable changes to private royal holdings hinges on concerns of privacy precedents and the apparent encroachment of external control into familial matters. They also revive unsolved emotional dynamics within a family and a nation, the memory of Diana, the challenging changes of the 1990s, and the protracted restoration of ties that once seemed permanently fractured. The symbolic significance of this occurrence for the public is substantial. Diana's life and death have a significant position in modern British consciousness. Any implication of misconduct related to her possessions provokes extensive media attention and public discourse. In a time when royal decisions intertwine with discussions on transparency, national identity, and the function of constitutional monarchy, an internal controversy regarding artifacts transcends a mere domestic issue. It can provoke broader inquiries into how the monarchy oversees both its public image and its material heritage. Until the pertinent questions are addressed, who documented the transfer, why the destination was labeled as undisclosed vault, what exactly RH denotes, and if any person intentionally misled record keepers, the occurrence will persist as an unsolved and deleterious influence. The incident jeopardizes Queen Camilla's reputation and the acceptance garnered from years of service. For King Charles, it challenges his ability to balance personal loyalty with institutional duty. For Prince William and Princess Anne, it serves as a possible validation of long-standing uncertainties. This episode highlights the precariousness of faith in the monarchy as an institution and the significant significance that tangible goods have when connected to human narratives and national feeling. The inquiry may yield outcomes ranging from a conclusion that the event stemmed from administrative confusion, an informal transfer recorded with ambiguous shorthand, to an identification of a staff member or officer who improperly applied procedures, or even the more severe possibility of a malicious act aimed at undermining familial relationships. Each scenario entails distinct corrective measures, administrative changes, and retraining, first disciplinary or criminal actions thereafter, and ultimately a prolonged initiative for reputational restoration and increased control. All of these need careful management to reconcile the demand for responsibility with the maintenance of dignity and the prevention of superfluous public spectacle. The testimonies from Clarence House depict a family facing an atypically tense amalgamation of administrative discrepancies and emotional intensity. The final resolution, whether it validates an unfortunate administrative error, uncovers a deliberate act by an insider, or absolves any involved party, underscores the necessity for transparent and stringent procedures in the management and accounting of historically significant artifacts. It also confirms that within the House of Windsor, historical grievances and personal allegiances are potent influences capable of molding public narratives and affecting the unity of a family whose symbolic significance remains profoundly relevant to millions both domestically and internationally. Until definitive answers are determined, and either publicly or internally acknowledged, the ramifications of this incident will certainly linger over Clarence House Queen Camilla's image and the future stability of the royal family. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts and goodbye for now.